Welcome, everyone. I'm John Ryan of gambling.com, and I think we have the world covered today for you guys. We have Chad down there in Baton Rouge. We have myself, obviously, out here at SoFi Stadium. We also have Jesse Schule in Shanghai, Thailand, watching, I believe he's watching Man U with his son, Dave. Well, he might have froze, but I think he's there.
Manchester City it is.
Manchester City he's watching. Yeah, there you go. I know it started with something, Man U or something like that. But welcome to the show, guys. I want to give a shout out to this contest that I stumbled upon. The guy who runs it was nice enough to invite me. And the Twitter handle you want to go to is, let me get the guy's name here for you guys. It's Tribute Hero. Tribute is the Tribute Hero. So at Tribute Hero, he's the organizer of this contest, and it's been growing. And this is the third time I've been in it. And the way this thing works, guys, is that you have to do 9 picks each round over a 3-day period, no matter what. You also cannot play any money line of minus 150 or higher. But any sport, like right now, Jesse, you could put in a in-game live bet on the soccer game, and it would count. As long as you can send a screenshot of the bet and the line, not necessarily a ticket, just a line that confirms that the line is real, it counts. And it's been a lot of fun. It's only a $50 entry. And, each week, as you can see on the chart here, the red would be, this is day 2. So this is after day 1 of the second round of this contest. There's like 10 that are eliminated. So if you're in the green area, then you advance to the next round. Everything resets to 0, and you go 3 days again. And then the top 10 will advance. And then the semifinals are the top 5 or 6. And then at the end of that 3-day period is the winner. And it's pretty cool. I'm actually having a lot of fun with it. And there's no, you know how you enter these contests sometimes, and there's these loudmouth jerks, and then they lose, and then they complain that the lines weren't right, or that, well, actually they're complaining that they weren't smart enough to actually meet their ego. This group of guys, there is none of that. I mean, there's some teasing and stuff like you and the 3 of us do, but it's really been pretty, healthy, I guess is the right word.
That's nice. So there's this contest starts again every couple of weeks, you said?
Yeah.
So we could jump back in? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, see, I was under the impression that it was over and I missed the boat for this season, but so if we can, just let me know, because I'd be willing to jump in on that. Yeah,
and anybody that's viewing the show, I'm sure that if you go to @TributeHero, there's no reason why you couldn't enter it too. You just have to make the bets for nine picks over 3 days, and that's it. No money line favorites over minus 150, which is smart. But then again, in baseball, those minus 400 favorites have been really awful.
Right.
I like betting those dogs just for the sake of betting them. Just pizza money. Or if they are a real one on my model, then I get pretty excited. But
nope, we lost Jesse.
We lost Jesse there for a little bit, but he'll probably come back in. And after all, he's in
in Thailand.
In Thailand with his son.
Yeah.
Anyway, we can get started here. I guess the first game I wanted to take a look at was Penn State traveling on the road to Auburn. This is a series that they agreed upon between the two schools, I guess about 2 years ago. I think this is the third year. Third year they've played. And this line opened with Auburn as a minus 1 point favorite. Now it's Penn State minus 3 on the board. And for what it's worth, I have a 5-pack of premium picks that I put out this morning, and I'll give you one of them right now, and that's Penn State is one of those 5. And It doesn't mean that because it's a premium pick, it's going to win. But I do like what I see with Penn State, and especially that freshman quarterback that's a 5-star recruit. He is unreal. I don't think I've ever seen leg strength in my life. He was wrapped up, with a defender around the lower legs, and he literally just would pull himself out like he had grease on his legs, and they couldn't hold on to him. And he has a cannon. I don't think I've really. I mean, you got to watch the highlights of this kid if you have never seen this kid from Penn State, and he just has a hose. I mean, it's not. I don't even know what the word is. Howitzer, I guess, would be the better word. And I wouldn't be surprised if he can throw the ball the length of the field in practice. At least 80.
Wow.
Some of these guys can throw it the length of the field, but not with a pass rush coming at you.
Right.
Anyway, Chad, what do you think of this this matchup, and do you agree with my bet on Penn State minus the 3?
I actually disagree. I think that we saw Penn State go. They had that opener with Purdue, and really were on the ropes and had to kind of pull it out at the last minute, I think, on their final drive, and really kind of got almost bailed out by a good replay overturn of a reception that Purdue had made. That was, you could see the ball hit the ground. So it was a good call, but they were a razor's edge from starting off the season 0-1, and then the win last week against Ohio. I'm not terribly moved by that. I think going into an SEC home stadium for a CBS 2:30 kickoff, 2:30 Central Time, where the game's going to be played. Local time it's going to be 2:30, 3:30 Eastern. I think that they've got their work cut out for them. And TJ Finley, as much as I have clowned him at times because I thought it was funny that Alabama almost lost to him last year in the Iron Bowl. He's shown some flashes even when he was at LSU of being able to get some things done. And so in a microwave sort of situation like this, I don't know about the entire season, but I actually like him in a big situation such as this to perhaps overperform his typical performance. And I think there's a lot of talent on both sides of the ball on that Auburn roster. I think both of these teams are very the line kind of speaks to how evenly matched I think these two teams are, because the fact that it started off with Auburn as a favorite and has moved to Penn State being a slight favorite, all it did was make me think, okay, well, maybe the smarter money is to stay with the dog. And I'm interested to see, because I've heard this bandied about, and I was wondering if you maybe had some evidence to either support or to refute this, that when a line opens up like that and the home team is the favorite, and then it moves in the other direction where they become a slight dog, what the record is, because what I've heard is that typically bodes well for the team that becomes the dog when it flips like that.
Interesting. Throughout the rest of the show, I'll see what I can do with that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good stuff. The one thing that got me on this is the idea that Penn State will score 24 or more points in this game, and when they do, historically that has been a very high cover percentage and straight up win. And I agree that I don't like the fact that I'm with the betting community on this one, but it's not excessive. If anything, there seems to be some money coming in on Auburn at +3, which makes sense to me. And I don't know if that is public money or if it's the pros buying back their Penn State bet.
Right.
But it could be, because this was a game that was lined by the Circa literally months ago, and it was Auburn -2. So whatever a pro got on that, and there's limits too. You can't bet 20 grand on those lines back, when they're released. There's limits. Right. That is something good. But I do have this was one of my videos this week up on my timeline. And by the way, Chad, I can hardly believe it's a good thing. But I can hardly believe, humbly said, that I'm coming up on 10,000 followers.
That's nice. Yeah, that's good stuff.
Man, that's like a small village. I just never really considered the idea of getting 10,000 followers, but certainly appreciative of everybody that's supporting the move. It goes up more and more each week, so we must be doing something right.
Yeah, I was gonna say keep banging out those winners, and it'll keep going up. I promise. So yeah, for sure.
Yeah, the video was a tweak of this system here. Penn State was a terrible rushing team last year. They averaged less than 3.25 yards per carry. And they're coming off a game that they gained 6 or more yards per game or per carry for that game against Ohio. And granted, it was Ohio, but this set of parameters doesn't matter what the opponent was. That has hit 82% over the last 30 years, 29-7 against the spread. So when I say that to myself, I just kind of go, oof. And it doesn't matter if they're on the road. It doesn't matter if they're at home. It doesn't matter if they're a double-digit favorite. I tried to make it produce an awful result, and the lowest I could get it down to is 58%.
Oh, wow.
But they are coming off, I think, 7.5 yards per rush, if I remember correctly, or at least 7. And that didn't change it one way or the other. It still was a very high percentage.
Yeah, Nick Singleton's by himself is averaging like over 10 yards a carry so far this season. Was he like 20 for 210? So
yeah, and that brings up the point of this of bringing up this system, because we're only in week 3. So what I should do on the show here, I wish I would have wrote this down before, is see how this thing does the second half of the season. Because I'm certain that it doesn't hit 82% the second half of the season. It's going to be something lower, probably, maybe 69, but still, that's really, really good. And then factor out, just include all the teams that are in the Power 5 conference list. If you can still call it a Power 5, I'm not sure.
Power 3.
Power 3 and soon to be Power 2, I guess.
Right.
And it's going to be like the AFC and NFC of college football, and then there's going to be with all due respect, the minors. The direction it's heading. But anyway,
it's looking a lot like what they did with college basketball, where you have some of these, this conference consolidation to where you end up having just a handful of the quote unquote power conferences. But I think what you're also seeing is there are more of these smaller schools from smaller conferences starting to pop up and really be a threat, because I think some of and we'll see how the landscape changes with the NIL contracts and things like that being offered, because now, a school like a lot of people looked at this and they thought, oh man, this is going to be great for USC. Alabama's going to do well, but it might help bring Miami back to prominence and maybe some of these Northeast schools, because they can offer this money and everything. What people tend to forget is you got schools like Texas San Antonio, where there's a lot of money in San Antonio. Now you can start, you start bringing kids in there, and you've got this money that you can offer now that you couldn't offer before. And it was just, why would I go to UTSA? And they were already a program on the rise. So I look at some of these schools that are right on the cusp of being able to compete with the lower level Power 5 schools, and they're not that far away with a few recruiting breaks to being able to compete with the mid-tier of those Power 5 conferences. And so you could end up with this sort of Hatfields and McCoys split, but where there's also a little bit of, there's some of that grit in those lesser schools and conferences, and it could be actually backed up by, they might actually be bringing some heavy duty artillery to the table because they're able to offer these kids money now.
Yep.
So anyway, let's continue on with the betting line. So I actually like Auburn, especially if it's moved to +3 now. I like Auburn even better, because if I don't have to, if I can just get a field goal, I'll take that.
Yeah, for sure. If I was in your shoes, I'd probably sprinkle the money line too at +3, because It's got to be somewhere approaching plus 150, and that's kind of my pivot area for when I'm playing dogs.
Mm-hmm.
Max on record. This guy was a loyal follower of the Manny's Irish Pub Sports Betting Show, so it's nice to see him back here.
All
That's
right.
pretty cool. He has some. He always has some good idea. He liked my my PGA list. I put out a list of PGA Tour golfers that show very, very high for the DraftKings. And what I've done is I just put out the list, and the list will go anywhere from 18 to 24 golfers. And then you use that list to create your own lineups. And somewhere in that list, there's a couple million combinations in that list. And one of them is a combination that's going to cash big.
Okay.
I haven't done it, but we did have one guy that was in the top 10 of one of the big majors, and that was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
We aim to provide information, right, Chad?
That's right.
It's not, we're not trying to stroke our egos with how good our bets are. We learn from each other. We learn from the chat room. We learn from anywhere possible.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think too, one of the things that's been fun in spending time with you and talking through this stuff is that I've come to you with some ideas, and then with the information that you provide, it kind of gives it shines light from a different area. And so maybe it like illuminates a shadow that I had before where, I'm seeing some stuff in a way that I didn't see it before. And so it gives me a different perspective on some of the ideas that I had. And so it really helps to kind of shape that stuff in a direction that I think it makes it more productive, more profitable. So yeah, it's always good to get minds together.
And that's the Wall Street part of me. There's a market here, and it really is a market. Somebody might come up to you, Chad, and say, "Boy, you should go out and buy Apple Computer," and somebody else might say, "You're nuts if you do that." And that is what this is. It really is.
Well, it's one of the reasons why I've always been more of a fan of playing like Texas Hold'em or something like that than playing blackjack, because blackjack, it's just the dealer has a hard line, and there's no emotion, and you can't play off of that emotion, and you can't spot the offset of the line versus the emotions and where the value is as easily. It's all very cut and dry with blackjack. Whereas Texas Hold'em, you may be able to trick somebody into thinking you have something you don't have. You may be able to catch someone overplaying their hand, and so I think a lot of times we can see that with some of these lines where we spot something, we say, you know what, something doesn't match up here. And what it is, it's other people's emotions, just like with the stock market. A lot of times you're just looking at the prevailing emotion and saying, yeah, the prevailing emotion is not supported by the data. So I'm going to go with the data and go against the prevailing emotion. And you actually set yourself up to do very well if you play it right. Yep.
I agree. We'll have to do a Texas Hold'em event someday.
All right, let's go.
I'm told that I'm very hard to read because of my, I can be smiling with 2-7. I can be smiling with pocket aces, And
there you go. That's the best. All right.
I like trying to get those guys that are dead serious to smile.
There you go.
Or get pissed off, one or the other.
Right. Yeah,
so let's move on to a game I just wanted to kind of glance over. Earlier in the week, I looked at Notre Dame as well. This is their game to blow out California. I did put out a video on the under because this game is 40.5, and Notre Dame really can't throw the ball. And that is what I learned during the week in the research and talking to some people. And Cal's getting 12 now.
Wow.
And there's a couple guys that I know that are in the Circa Invitational. That's the one that has 16 guys in it, and every week they do 5 picks. It can be any 5 picks, college football or NFL, whatever they want. And they are on Cal. And I'm just wondering, is it when it's too obvious that it's going to be Notre Dame because they're 0-2 and there's no way they're going to lose to California, it starts making me think that, holy moly, this might happen. Am I crazy, or do you share those thoughts too?
Listen, I'm in wait and see mode with Notre Dame because I cannot possibly put money on Notre Dame to win. And if anything, yeah, I'd be taking a swing at the money line on this one just to see like how bad is the carnage going to be, and is Marcus Freeman going to make it out of this season alive? You know, I don't know. I could see this Notre Dame team, you know, starting off the season, you know, 3-5 or something like that very easily. But I could also see them go on a run here if they have, because one of the things you don't know about is the emotions of, you know, teenage and young adult men, right? Like it's I've got a 16-year-old son, and he's pretty level-headed, but when it comes to, you know, athletic performance and things like that, sometimes it's easy for a little thing to get into someone's head. And so I could see this locker room going one of two ways. Either they begin to turn on this new administration, because these guys were brought in, they were recruited by Brian Kelly, and he's not there anymore. And yeah, they stuck around, and there was all this excitement around this coaching staff going into this season. But then you look at how they've performed these first two games, and that Ohio State game, you can kind of chalk it up to, that's a national championship contender. And they actually hung with them pretty well for the first half and were in that game. But to lose the way that they did to Marshall last week,
brutal
is embarrassing. And now you've got all these, the other thing is too, with the transfer portal and everything else, look, you got 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old kids, and all their friends are in their ear, texting them all week and everything. Like, hey, man, you thinking about transferring? You know, like all this stuff, like all these different emotions that when we were kids, John, these guys didn't have to really worry about, because there wasn't all this social media, wasn't all this hype. You just went and did your job. And then on Saturdays, you may or may not even be on TV. Now everything's on TV, and social media is so crazy. I could see this. To me, Notre Dame is the proverbial marble on a glass tabletop. You don't know which direction it's going, but it's going somewhere fast. Yep. So,
yeah. So,
sorry about that. Damn.
I think, you know,
took my camera out.
Just thoughts for the you know, guys and gals in the chat room and watching this even in archive fashion. I'm going to watch the start of that game, and if it starts out fast, like let's say it's 7-3 with 3 minutes to go in the first quarter, I may take a shot at that under in the live in game, because I do have that video out there that supports the under at 40.5. So if I like it at 40.5 under, I'm going to like it even more, because in the back of my head, I still, you know, I got off of Notre Dame, obviously, but I still have it in the back of my head that they could put up 35 on Cal. But then again, that's based on Cal's recency bias of being such a bad team the last couple of years. And this team is not the typical Cal team. And then, you know, if Notre Dame gets out to a 10-0 lead early in the first quarter, I'd be really tempted then to get on Cal, because then Cal's going to be about, 10-0. They're going to be approaching, you know, 18, 19 points in game. And I think I would do that. I'll have to tweet that if I do.
And that one's in South Bend, so yeah. It's kind of, again, I don't know how good it is to be playing at home when you're playing as poorly as you are.
You're right.
It's probably worse.
Great point.
It's probably worse to be playing at home for this game, because you're going to hear the boos. You're going to hear, you know, it's going to be. You're going in there and you're expecting to kind of ride this wave of positive emotion in your home stadium. And when the stadium is either silent or, you know, has some animosity towards you, like, it's not a good place to be.
We've seen that in every pro sport. A team goes into a slump in baseball, like the Mets or the Yankees, they all of a sudden start playing better on the road. On the road,
right.
Get away from the hate.
Yeah,
you're right. I pity the quarterback for Notre Dame if he gets a 3rd and 4 and they don't convert it in the first series of the game. I mean, that's going to be just awful.
Well, so there's two different kinds of hate that you can feed off of one way or the other. When you go into the other neighborhood where those guys don't like you, You feed off of that, and it actually kind of elevates you. But when you come home and your dad hates you, it's depressing. You know what I mean? Like it's not the same. It's not the same. It's a different kind of hate. When your own people hate you, when your fans hate you and they're booing you, that does not motivate you to play well. When you go into an opposing stadium and they're booing you and they're yelling at you and heckling you and all this stuff, you kind of have a chip on your shoulder with it. You know, it's a whole different set of emotions. So yeah, if anything, I'm staying away from this. But if I'm going to do, if I'm going to play it at all, I'm playing it the way that you suggested, which is lean towards the under. Maybe look for an in-game play to take that under at a higher number, and I would watch for Cal to either pre-flop drop something on this money line or on the plus 12.5, whatever you can get, and then see if Notre Dame gets an early score. See if you can maybe get an even better number, and then just kind of let it ride out and see where that thing ends up. Because I don't know, man. It's what kind of come to Jesus meetings did they have this week? We will never know until after this game is played, right? So we could see Notre Dame come out and set the world on fire. I don't know, but I wouldn't bet on it.
I wouldn't either. Let's look at NC State, who was seemed to be the everyone's darling preseason to have a real good shot at winning the ACC title and beyond. They're taking on Texas Tech, who beat Houston last week, but I'm not impressed with them. I've been intentionally staying away from NC State because of the hype surrounding them. I feel like the line has been inflated and the market's valuing them, but that doesn't mean they can't cover these teams like Texas Tech. Do you have any thoughts on this matchup?
Well, that was kind of the thing I wanted to see. One of our guys had asked about this game, and I just looked at it, and my immediate reaction was stay away, because I feel the same way that you seem to feel about. I like NC State. I want to believe the hype. But at the same time, I've seen NC State lose some games in years past that they should win, and then I've seen them go and beat Clemson. It's just they're a very difficult team to read when it comes, or difficult program to read even when it comes to how they're going to perform over the course of a long season. They haven't proven that game in, game out, they're going to be steady. They're going to have the performance that you expect. And okay, maybe they're not going to win. They're not going to have a bunch of upsets, but they're not going to lose games that they shouldn't lose. No, this is exactly the opposite. What this program has shown me is this is the type of game that they would lose. And then they would follow it up with a win, in overtime against Clemson next week or something like that. I mean, that's not who they're playing, but you know what I'm saying? Like it's very, very Jekyll and Hyde. You don't know exactly what to expect from them. So just by virtue of looking at this number, I would tend to, similar to the Cal Notre Dame game, if I'm playing this at all, I'm playing either the money line with Texas Tech, because I get good money for my money,
Sure do.
The value is there. I don't see value in taking NC State money line for sure. And I don't see the value in taking them minus the 10.5, because I'm not convinced that's good pot odds. Like, to me, I look at that and I'm like, okay, I don't even know that it's a 50-50 that they're minus 10.5. And I'm getting less than 50-50 for my money. No, thank you. So that's how I would play that. I would either avoid it, or if I'm taking anything, I'm taking Texas Tech at the money line with a small bet, because that number is pretty big. What are we at? Like plus 250, plus 280,
300.
Oh, is it 300 now? Okay, yeah. See, that's
We should be around 320 is what I would look for. I do have a tremendous money line system that I just uncovered, and I literally just uncovered this one. NC State is off a big blowout winner, right? So your point about the Jekyll and Hyde is well enforced with this one. So it's simply you're going to bet against a home team that had a winning record last year and coming off a home blowout win of 28 or more points, and is playing at home yet again. 43-35 straight up. Doesn't sound that good for 55%. Even against the spread, folks, that would be pretty good. We would take that in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
But straight up. So
straight
you're
up is only 43-35. That's not good.
Yeah, it's mediocre when you, but straight up, you're averaging a plus 256 dog. And that has produced an outstanding 58% ROI. So that might be food for thought here to take some pizza money and throw it down on
the Red Raiders.
Texas Tech. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. And then maybe another pizza money bet if NC State scores first. That the lead changes in college football are abundant, and I don't think the new bettor is not going to really realize that until they actually get into it after a couple of seasons. But just because NC State scores first doesn't mean it's going to be a blowout and Texas Tech is going to get killed. It might actually be the other way around.
Yeah, and I know Texas Tech has played some lesser competition. Playing Houston last week and then Murray State the week before, but they've put 96 points on the board so far this season, so they can put up points. So that to your point, if NC State were to get out to an early lead, just playing the regression, just based on the fact that you've got the potential for NC State to give up some points to Texas Tech. And the other thing is too, go back to week 1, East Carolina, NC State had to squeak that one out with a 21-20 victory. Gave up 3 touchdowns, gave up 20 points, and really were in danger of losing that game. They got healthy last week against Charleston Southern with a 55-3 win, but that's not what we're talking about here. And Texas Tech they come from that Big 12 conference, and they've had may not be the same regimes that they've had from back in the day when they were running the spread and hanging big points on everyone, back in the Michael Crabtree years and everything, but they still put up points as you've seen. They're averaging almost 50 a game so far this year. So yeah, I kind of like that bet of maybe sprinkle a little bit pre-flop on this money line, but look for NC State to get an early touchdown and then hit it, smash the button a little bit harder when you get better money. And you could potentially see, at the very least, a regression with Texas Tech putting some points on the board, and you could possibly buy your bet back. Not necessarily something where you'd have to see it all the way through, but you could actually get some good money in and get out with a decent win.
Let's move on to another game here, and then we'll do another one after that, and then we'll do our best bets for the show.
Yes, sir.
And call it a morning. But BYU on the road at Oregon, I think, is a pretty good matchup here. Oregon's favored by 3. Their defense is rated one of the worst in the Pac-12, but that you can't really say that because it's only 2 weeks, and one of those weeks was the debacle in Athens, Georgia, against the Bulldogs. So initially here, I like Oregon, and I'll turn it over to you for your analysis.
No, I do too. And normally I would look at something like this and BYU playing the way that they did last week against Baylor as being a warning sign to maybe look away from this 3.5 point favorite in Oregon. But we talked about last week on the show, I kind of felt good about Baylor going into that game. They lost it in overtime. I was feeling like I was like, all right, well, maybe I wasn't completely wrong because they actually forced overtime in this game. But not playing in Provo this week and having to go on the road, and to your point, Oregon is, let's not forget what the expectation was for this roster and the talent that they have. Oregon is really good at finding a way to recruit talent from all over the country and pull guys from some of the biggest schools some of the guys at Alabama, LSU, USC, Ohio State are recruiting. Those guys flip and go to Oregon. There's a rich tradition there of talent, and I really like what they're putting together offensively, and notwithstanding that Georgia game, because that was a debacle. But like, let's be completely honest with ourselves. This is one of the best. Like you've talked about this before. Georgia doesn't rebuild; they reload. They lost all those guys to the draft, and all the guys who are coming in to fill those spots got a good bit of playing time last year, and we're all 4- and 5-star recruits.
Yeah.
So this is a stacked Georgia roster yet again, and I think Oregon, they started off where I think they were kind of hanging around early, and then once the bleeding started and they couldn't stop it, it just completely got away from them, and you could see like they kind of mailed it in towards the end of that game. So I look for them to. They're trying to get back into the good graces, trying to make their way up the college football rankings to see if they can still possibly sneak their way into a college football playoff spot. Because the reality is, a Pac-12 team is going to have their work cut out for them getting into the playoff. But if you somehow are the team that reigns supreme in that conference, after all the hype around USC, and your only loss of the season is a season opener against Georgia, the defending national champion, and a team who's likely to also be in the playoff, I think Oregon, if they run the table the rest of the way, I think they set themselves up to be in the conversation for one of those playoff spots. And you can't get there unless you take care of business here with BYU. So I think the bulletin board material is aplenty for this game. And so I like Oregon minus the 3.5.
And I'm with you on that. I like Oregon quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
In the chat room, and I was going to make this the last game. Max on record here wants to know the LSU Mississippi State game, and who better on the planet than you?
I know, right?
LSU and the state of the LSU Tiger Nation. So I'll just turn it right over to you. Initially, I like LSU here, and I actually like LSU quite a bit. Let's see what you think.
I mean, I do as well. For a few reasons, most of them deal with just like playing trends and recognizing the atmosphere that's going to be on display. You know, LSU is coming off of a very disappointing season opener with Florida State, where a missed PAT or a blocked PAT and a blocked field goal really cost them the game. They really shouldn't have been in the game, though. Let's face it. If Florida State doesn't pitch the ball and fumble it on the goal line on the other end of the field, and then LSU marches all the way down, we're not even having this conversation, and LSU loses that game by 2 touchdowns. But the reality is they had the game in their grasp, and they blew it. But then they come back, they get very healthy, and Jaden Daniels played really well last week. It was a hapless Southern team. It's the first time you got these two schools in Baton Rouge right down the road from each other, maybe like 5 miles apart. And they finally play each other for the first time in over 100 years, and LSU hung 37 on them in the first quarter. So this is a mismatch from the beginning. So I don't really put any stock in that. I think this is LSU's first opportunity to really, really prove themselves, whether they are what we saw in week 1 or whether they're something more in line with what the expectation was coming into this season. And so I like LSU at home. It's going to be an early evening start. Normally Tiger Stadium kickoffs are around 7:30, 8 o'clock Eastern time. This one's a 6 o'clock Eastern start, so it's a little earlier. The sun's still going to be out, but the sun will be going down, and there will be lights in Tiger Stadium before this thing is all said and done. Mississippi State does have a history, though, of coming in here and spoiling the party a little bit, so I'm a little concerned about that. And the other thing that I'm concerned about is, like, Will Rogers has been putting up numbers, and Mississippi State's passing attack is very strong, and LSU is if they ever are in a rebuild mode in the secondary, this is the epitome of that. You lose Derek Stingley to the draft. You lose Eli Ricks to Alabama through the transfer portal. And LSU had to go and they got guys from Louisiana Lafayette. They got a guy from Oklahoma State. They're pulling these DBs in from all over the transfer portal. And you're picking up scraps. I mean, there's some talent there, but this is not the same as the Patrick Peterson, Derek Stingley, Tre'Davious White, these NFL caliber DBs that LSU is famous for. LSU is in a transition period in the secondary, and that concerns me. The one thing that I will say, though, is that Mississippi State has not proven to me that they can stop people the way that I think they're going to need to stop LSU to keep LSU from keeping up offensively. And the fact that LSU is a 2.5 to 3 point dog at home, to me, is just, it doesn't make any sense. I could be wrong, but maybe I'm betting with my heart, but I'm throwing some money down on the money line on this one, and I'm definitely taking LSU plus the 3.5 or 2.5 or 3. But I could definitely see this one blowing up in my face, and Mississippi State once again, because you remember back, Dak Prescott came in here and beat LSU, a really good LSU team, a few years back when Mississippi State had their run and went undefeated deep into the season. And then 2 years ago, season opener, the COVID year 2020, Mississippi State came in and hung like, I don't remember how many points, but it was like
44,
almost
34.
Yeah, it was almost 700 total yards of offense. It was embarrassing defensively for LSU. So I would reluctantly put money on this game, and if I did, it was going to be on LSU's side.
Yeah, in that game, Mississippi State had 9 rushing yards and 623 passing yards.
yeah.
In that game,
ugly. Bo Pelini was never the same after that. So it happens.
968 passing yards in that game, 44-34. But listen to this. 13-2 LSU at home straight up against Mississippi State. So those 2 losses have occurred recently. But like you said, the trend at LSU is a home dog. I mean, I think you continue to bet that until proven wrong. And I had one guy say that, well, I can't bet LSU because it's not a night game. Well, like you said, it's going to be night eventually, and the fans will just party a little faster.
I was going to say, that argument holds more so when we're talking about a 3:30 start or a noon start or something like that. There's plenty of time to get drunk. People have been out there since 6 o'clock this morning. There are a bunch of people out there who are already drunk. So like this is not. I wouldn't be too worried about it. This is not the Ed Ogeron back. We were playing Florida one year, and it was an 11 o'clock start or maybe a 10 o'clock start. It was really, really early because there was a hurricane coming, or I don't remember what the scenario was, but they had to push the game up really early. And somebody asked Ed Ogeron, they said, "What do you recommend for the fans?" He's like, "Put a little something in your coffee." Like he's just basically telling you, like, look, it's going to be early in the morning. Put some whiskey in your coffee. That way you can be effectively drunk for game time, because everybody knows it's an atmosphere that thrives on alcohol and emotion. So there's a reason why, and I don't care what anybody says, but until you've been in Tiger Stadium, you can't argue with me that it's not the best environment in all of college sports.
It's right up there with Penn State, that's for sure.
Oh, listen to this guy. All right. We're gonna have to do a home and we'll see. Like I'll come up there for a big game for you guys.
It's on my bucket list.
Yeah, y'all, everybody, you, AG, whoever wants to come down here, we'll find a way. We'll get tickets and everything, and we'll go. We'll do a whole thing. I'll take y'all on the tailgating tour, and we'll do the whole thing upright, and you'll enjoy yourselves for sure.
Yeah, just real quick, AG would love me saying this. Penn State, there's, it's 111,000 seat stadium, and it's packed in, and it gets enormously loud. However, the tailgating is estimated to be 300,000 people on any given Saturday, which means that there's 111 in the stadium, and there's twice that amount sitting around their RVs
That's how it is.
500 acres of ground in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, that's how it is here. I wouldn't say it's in the middle of nowhere though. It's a very robust college town with plenty of bars and restaurants around. So, but there are plenty of people sitting in their RVs on campus and watch. You've got the tents with their big screen TVs and their satellite dishes and antennas and everything else. So yeah, it's a big deal.
Yeah, it's cool to see those $1 million RVs. That's for sure. Everything's automated. The TV rolls up. I mean, it's pretty nuts. Yeah. Anyway, let's go to let's just do our best bets for the show at this point. And if anybody does have any games they want us to break down, just put that in the chat, and we can still do that. But I think we're at the point here this morning to do a best bet round. And if you want to go first, I'll let you go first. And I only say that because I'm the host and I get to say that. Yeah. I'm really on the fence to who I'm going to make for my best bet for the show.
Yeah, I really like this is one we didn't talk about, but I really like Texas A&M to actually bounce back at home.
I agree.
Against Miami. I think there's a lot of recency bias baked into this pick. I think I saw ESPN had their FPI has Texas A&M as a 46% chance to win this game. And we've seen how accurate FPI is. It's terrible. I've never seen something where like, there are so many bets or so many games where the 90 some odd percent team loses. And to me, it's like, it's one thing to say, well, yeah, but that means there's a 10% chance that they could, that the other team could win. I'm like, yeah, but why do those teams win like 30% of the games? It doesn't make any sense. The odds are imbalanced. So I like A&M. The line has moved to 6. I don't like it as much as I did when it was 4.5, 5.5. Because now you're getting into that like they've got to win by a touchdown territory. But I still like them to win this game. I like them to win it straight up. That money line is going to be expensive, but you're going to get decent money for that -6. And if you can get -5.5 still, I would hit that. That's my bet that I feel probably the most confident about this week. And I will say this, like I picked Appalachian State straight up last week. So this is not me being an SEC homer or anything like that. I can't stand Texas A&M. We call Texas A&M Texas 8-4 for a reason. We can't stand them. And they also
a Big 12 team to me.
Yeah, exactly right. But I don't think the way that Jimbo Fisher coaches and the talent on that roster, I don't think there's any chance that this team comes out this week and is as flat as they were last week. Not even close. The only issue I see with them is what are they going to do at quarterback? Because right now there's some questions around King and Max Johnson, and I'm not sure. That's the one thing that gives me every one of these games this week has like I could make a case either way. I just feel like riding the wave. I go against the public on this one, and I think the public is heavy on Miami.
Yep, I'm with you on that one. And I'm going to pull up a slide here. Here's the Penn State one.
Okay.
So I mentioned this earlier in the show. So I guess I'll do this one. I was looking for another one, but this is a video I did. It's on Twitter. I do 2-minute videos, several of them every week. I think I did 7 actually between NFL and college football. So again, Chad and I were on opposite ends here of this game, which is fair. That's what makes a market. And the system, though, is one that you want to write down and follow, though, because over time it has done well. Doesn't mean that it's going to do well today. It does well over the course of a season. And as soon as you get your mind frame, especially if you're a new sports bettor, you got to think longer term and you got to think grind. You can never think, you know what, man, my girlfriend and my wife is going to be so happy tonight when I go 7-0. Well, to be honest with you, Don Buster was on my NFL show. He's been on my NFL show for years now with Rocky Atkinson. He went 5-0 in the circuit in the NFL, and he was 13-0, Chad, for college football and NFL. I mean, you just don't hear that very often, and he's one of the best. So, of course, he's walking around on,
Cloud nine. Yep.
And plus, pins and needles, wondering, if he's going to crash this week.
When the next shoe's going to drop. Yeah, exactly.
Right. That's the reality, and that's what you learn as a pro. I mean, anyway, this is the betting angle for Penn State. You averaged 3.25 or fewer rushing yards in the previous season, which is awful. Coming off a game that you gained 6.5 or more rushing yards per attempt, 69-43 for 62%, and if favored in a non-conference matchup, 25-11 with one push, 69%, and that would be my best bet for the show on Penn State. And then the last one I have here, that's a Major League Baseball angle, Pac-12. Now, I'm actually glad I brought this one up, Chad, because in 24 hours ago, I'd liked USC quite a bit. And I don't like them quite a bit anymore. I still like them. I still bet them. But I'm going to bet a smaller amount than I normally would. So it goes from an 8 unit down to a 6 unit, or from a 4% bet to a 3%. So still strong, but I just don't like the fact that the whole world is on USC now. But bet on favorites, matchup of two strong teams that are outgaining their respective opponents by at least 1.25 yards per play. And the home favorite has gained 7 or more yards per play in 2 consecutive games. Straight up, they're 77-12, 57-29-3, 66% winning bet since 2006, says to take the USC Trojans. And that's all I got. So we gave out 3 bets. Your best bet is on not LSU, but it's on
Texas A&M.
Yeah, Texas A&M. And then, of course, I have Penn State and USC, and USC is later tonight.
Yeah, so and I think this, if anything, I would look at, and this is something I learned from you, John. I would look at that USC Fresno State game. Both of these teams have shown a propensity to hang up big numbers, and we've seen Lincoln Riley in his time at Oklahoma. Doesn't matter how much talent he has on defense, he will abuse his defense and score quick and put his defense right back out onto the field over and over and over again. That 72 number, if it's an early low scoring type of game in the first quarter, you might be able to get some good money in on a much lower number, or maybe even get like a better odds on that 72 or 70 or so number. I like the over in this game, and I especially like it if it gets off to a little bit of a slow start where these teams are trying to feel each other out, because as we saw, and we talked about this the other night with the NFL game, Thursday night's game was San Diego and Kansas City. They did that thing where they just kind of felt each other out for that first quarter, and it was like 7-3 or 10-3 or something in that neighborhood. And next thing you know, it's a 51-point total when it's all said and done. So I could see something very, very similar with this game, where it starts off a little sluggish and then these two teams start going blow for blow, because I don't think either of these two teams has proven that they can stop anybody on a consistent basis. So I like the over in that one. And I'm kind of with you on that, like go in USC, but maybe not as heavy, because I think that number is high enough that Fresno State could keep it a little closer than that.
And the odds are, I'm probably going to go 50% pre-flop Trojans and then look for something single digits, in game. And the odds are very, very high that is going to happen in a volatile game like this, because 73 points is a ton. And I'm going to also bet to, in game, you're going to see low 60s at some point. In this game. And just don't bet live in game late in the third or the fourth quarter. In fact, my rule is only first half. But if they start out slow, that number is going to, if it's only 10-0 at the end of the first quarter, it's going to come down to 60.
Yep.
Easily. And that doesn't mean that it's not going to end up going over 70, because the defense of the Trojans is what it really bothers me here, backing a double-digit favorite. But anyway, I guess that brings us to the end of the show, Chad. I appreciate your time as always. Sorry that Jesse Schule had internet trouble, of all places, Shanghai, Thailand, as he's watching soccer. It might have been that he had a few beverages as well. I think maybe he was afraid he was going to say something.
Spilled a beer on his internet connection or something. No,
That could have happened too, I think. You never know with Jesse. I mean,
oh shoot!
I've heard he gets two in him, and it becomes an awful scene.
Oh man, watch out now! Don't. That's.
Well,
I'm here to protect you, Jesse. He's. I'm not gonna let him slander you like that. No, we wish, and I think I'm just glad he and his son are getting a chance to enjoy a game together. That's fun times over there. So. Yeah, looking forward to tonight. This is going to be some good games all day, all afternoon. Some unexpected matchups, but they should be fun to watch. And then I think once we get into the thick of conference season, it's going to get really, really intriguing, and there's going to be some really good matchups. So I'm looking forward to the coming weeks as well.
Me as well. And before I let you go, I just wanted to give a mention here at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm going to be a guest on RotoWire with the great Jim Coventry, who is DFS guru like I have never known. And you'll understand, it's not hype. You'll understand as soon as he starts talking why I listen to him. And I have tweaked my lineups, and it's helped. So if it helps me, it's got to help just about everybody. So he is the best in my opinion. I'll be on his show at 11:30. Look forward to seeing you then.
Mm-hmm.
So. Chad, thanks for your time. Next week, we'll be doing it again at 8 a.m. We'll also be doing the football show on Wednesday or Thursday, I believe, with you and Ags and a bunch of other guys. So until then, folks, remember the two things. Always bet with your head and never over it. And may all the wins be yours. Thanks for watching, and good luck.